It will indubitably lead to stories of state repression as teachers turn in those parents to the authorities who hold repressive state power. Hey, what's up, folks? I'm Lil Guillotine, and you're tuned into another episode of The Chopping Block.
Guillotine and your neck meets beautifully.
The Chopping Block. In this episode, I would like to talk to you a little bit about virtual schooling.
What is this?
And how it displaces the roles of the capitalist state, all but eliminating the social safety net that schools provided, increasing the surveillance capacity of the state to enforce, through its repressive apparatus, the status quo of capitalist society on families, and forces families to take over the rule of institutionalizing children into obedient workers.
I spend 8 hours a day breaking concrete blocks to learn to be an obedient worker.
All this is not to diminish how enormously difficult the situation is on the teachers who have to relearn many things they know about teaching and are faced with a whole new set of tools they have to adapt to.
I'm a teacher, okay? You can't talk to me like that.
Schools are an institution of the capitalist state where it teaches and enforces the values, norms, and mores of the ruling classes and the status quo, and where the state maintains social control.
I stand in solidarity with all people targeted by government control.
It does so through the social services that are offered, like feeding, watching, and nurturing children physically, emotionally, and socially.
I'll take care of the kid.
It also does so through its surveillance aspect, acting as gatekeepers and enforcers of the status quo via its ability to bring in repressive institutions of the state like social workers, child protective services, and the police.
There's cops around everywhere.
Let's have a look at how virtual learning increases the ability of the state to conduct surveillance on working class families. Kids are having class via Zoom inside their houses and in their bedrooms. Although not obvious, teachers and school social workers serve a function as enforcers of the status quo through their ability to conduct surveillance on children and families, deciding whether or not parents or guardians are performing the act of caretaking and child rearing in a manner acceptable to the state and the ruling classes that the state discreetly enforces the will of. For instance, if they sense that a child is being neglected or abused in some way, they would contact a government social worker, child protective services, or in some cases call the police.
A snitch is the scum of the information industry.
Because the school is now happening inside of children's houses, the slightest perceived infraction, like a messy house with clothes on the floor, can land working class families in direct conflict with repressive actors of the state that may have long-term damaging repercussions for those families. And in fact, we are already seeing many stories about teachers castigating parents and guardians for walking around with not enough clothing, for drinking alcohol, or for smoking cannabis. It will indubitably lead to stories of state repression as teachers turn in those parents to the authorities who hold repressive state power, like the aforementioned social workers, child protective services, and the police. And just like all state repression, we will be seeing this repression coming down disproportionately on the backs of folks who are marginalized in society.
Believe it or not, there are real racists in this town.
The surveillance works the other way too. Teachers are under increased scrutiny by parents, which puts more pressure on them to act perfectly. Although it is the institution of the capitalist state that holds all the repressive power in that dynamic, in that relationship, save for the most privileged families who hold power to put a teacher's job in jeopardy. Another aspect of virtual learning is that schools are no longer helping with the labor of child rearing during the day. Previously, parents and guardians could count on schools to to safely and affordably watch their children during school hours. In that aspect, schools acted as sites of social services, providing a basic social safety net for working families. A large portion of parents and guardians are not able to earn an income on which to support their family if their daily source of childcare is no longer operating, right? Now, those parents have to be present all day long to make sure that their children are attending their Zoom calls, are fed, are getting enough exercise, and are safe. All things that schools used to take care of.
Because parenting is hard and expensive.
Another interesting phenomena about virtual learning is that placing the onus of institutionalizing children and instilling a ruling class friendly factory worker mentality off of the schools and onto parents and guardians. It is now the family's responsibility to make sure that the children are going to the various Zoom classes that they have during the day, doing the assignments, logging into the myriad websites and computer apps that they need, and then also eat a lunch and exercise in a regimented, compartmentalized portion of time. Capitalist society needs Pavlovian conditioned future workers who obediently respond to the ringing school bell like good, obedient, easily controlled masses in order to facilitate the future exploitation of children once they grow up and enter the job market. Previously, schools taught this seriously shitty social conditioning that the employing classes benefited from, but now families are being made to take it over, even if they don't normally run their families that way.
The sheep, mere sheep. The sheep, mere sheep.
Of course, it's worth it to keep children out of schools so the virus doesn't spread in order to save lives and for the health of the community. But I am not entirely sure having working class families taking over the roles of the capitalist state as they play out through the institution of the school is even worth it, especially for elementary and middle school age children. Those are a few of my thoughts on virtual learning and how it displaces the roles of the capitalist state, all but eliminating the social safety net that schools provided, increasing the surveillance capacity of the state to enforce society's status quo, and forces families to take over the role of institutionalizing children into obedient workers. Let me know your thoughts on this subject. Does this analysis reflect your experience with virtual learning? Do you disagree with my analysis on the situation? Are there any questions or comments? Put all those in the comments section and make sure you like and subscribe to my channel for more analysis, news, and music for the movement. That's it for this episode of The Chopping Block. Thanks for joining me. I'm Lil Guillotine, and we'll catch y'all on the flip side. Peace out, y'all.